Hi everyone, my name is Michelle and I'm Mama Loves You GB here on FlossTube, but also over on Instagram and Etsy as well. Welcome to the Sunday morning briefing. It is my first briefing back after the most fabulous retreat down in London last weekend. Now I am going to tell you all about the retreat, but I'm going to do that in a little while. I'm not going to do it first off, I'm going to do it in a little while. Before we get started though, I do want to just let you know, I haven't been punched in the face. Which is the constant source of bafflement to my best friend, who frequently says, how have you got through life without anybody punching you in the face? But no, I haven't. I have just developed this most enormous spot at 44 years of age. What is going on with life, I'd like to know. So yeah, just in case anybody was worried that somebody had punched me in the face, I'm all right. It hasn't happened yet today anyway. So as I said, I want to get on and talk to you about a little bit about some stitching. I've done a little bit that hasn't been concerned with the retreat. Then I've got a lot of retreat news. I've got the projects to show you that we had at the retreat. I want to talk to you about the fabulous things that we did at the retreat. And then I've got quite a bit of stitchy kindness and some haul to share with you. Although potentially not as much haul as I will have next weekend. Because I have been seriously add to cart today, mainly on Jeff P. Smith, I have to say. The eBay site, which is Trudy Ann Designs, they're over in Nashville at the moment and they are literally live posting things on their eBay. So yeah, add to cart. I've grabbed all of the three Stacey Nash ones that I wanted, a couple of the Teresa Kogut ones, a heartstring samplery one, and probably other ones that I've forgotten about. One of the Teresa Koguts was actually one from last year, so I was pleased to get that. So I'll show you those next week. But let's have a look and see what I've been up to. So I managed to start before I went to the retreat. All Things Grow with Love, which is by the Historic Sampler Company, and they very graciously gifted me the stitch along. So it came with some 32 count white linen. I've dyed it. In fact, I coffee and tea dyed it. Just literally with the coffee bags and the tea bags that we have sat in a little pot that get emptied at the end of the day. I just sort of got some warm water, threw them back in, and then scrunched it up, dyed it in that, and then let it sort of sit for a little while. And then I did something that I know better than to do. I hung it on the radiator to dry. I was being impatient. I shouldn't have hung it on the radiator to dry, because let me just show you what happens when you hang dyed fabric over a radiator to dry. You get a line. Now this is actually upside down. No, it's not. Sorry, I hung it that way. So it was bent like that over the radiator. So you can clearly see the fainter line where the top of the radiator was, and these sort of darker spots here. Now this is true of whether you've tea and coffee dyed it, whether you've Rit dyed it, however you've dyed it. If you hang it over something, it will dye and dry unevenly. I know this. Why I did it, I'm totally baffled. However, luckily enough, the piece of fabric that they gave me was plenty big enough for the design. So I have just started in the top corner on the other side. I could do with getting my fabric overlocked, but we'll have to wait a couple of weeks for that. So I have made a start. Such pretty colours on this. I'm probably not far off the bottom there, and then this is going to match on the other side. So you can there's two birds here, we can just about see the birds. There's a butterfly, there's a beautiful bee there. There's a couple of other doodads to go, and it probably will go to about there. I think if I remember offhand, it was like 26 by 26 centimetres. So I knew I had plenty of spare fabric. Did I bring the little pouch? Yeah, I'm keeping it in the little pouch that came with the kit. And did it say the measurement specifically? Got a few more flowers to add. So when stitched on 18 count Ada, the design measures 23 by 23. There we go. On 16 count Ada, it measures 26 by 26. So I've got 32 count linen. So it should be 26 by 26. So I've got plenty of space on my thing. And these are the colours. I've kind of just kept my thread card and folded them in half. So I'm not too good with bright white Ada really, or bright white fabrics. So hence why I decided to tea and coffee dye mine, and then I knew those colours would still look as brilliant on something that wasn't white anymore. So dead easy, took me 2 or 3 minutes. Just don't hang it over a radiator to dry. Like I said, I know better than that. But inexplicably, I clearly don't, or didn't at the time. There we go. So that's my first thing that I was stitching before the retreat. Now the other thing that I did a bit of stitching on this week, in fact quite a lot of stitching, it's become a little bit of an obsession. When I was at the retreat and I put out all my samplers and some of the ones from Marie as well, and I put them all out, every day of the retreat I kept looking at my Norfolk. Now if you've seen on Instagram, I've posted a little picture of my Norfolk. I kept looking at my Norfolk thinking, I just want to stitch on her. I just want to stitch on her. Because I've charted her for the most part. I've got a few little bits to finish charting, but for the most part she's done. And I'm stitching her on the most amazing piece of Lakeside linens in vintage buttercream with DMCs that just look amazing. And so I've done a bit more on her. So this is where I am at the moment. So what have I done? I have put the whole of the cartouche in. There we go. Which matched first time, might I add. So wonders will never cease. So there we go. And then I put in the name cartouche as well. That little sort of hexagonal or octagonal series of blocks is where the name's going to go. I've put in the little plant pot at the bottom, and then I've put in, oh, I've got a squeaky chair again, the rest of the sort of doodads down the one side, which will have matching ones on this side. I am loving this at the moment, absolutely loving it. So I just want to get her stitched up. Even on 36 count though, she is way bigger than the original, which gives you a clue as to how small the original stitches are. I haven't grabbed her this week because I've shown her fairly recently, and you can find a picture on my Instagram, but I'm sure I'll be stitching on this next week, so I'll grab it next week to show you. And that pretty much was all the stitching that I did. I think at the actual retreat, the stitches that I did, I think I put those 2 birds' heads in. That was all I did at the retreat, because it was pretty full on. It was really good. So let's talk a little bit about the retreat. I have got the projects with me to show you, for those of you that couldn't be at the retreat. So I do have some finishes and some funny finishes to show you, which is, it's been a little while. So let me try and fettle everything else. So I drove down on the Friday night, and it took me about 5 hours actually to drive from school all the way down to Watford through the M25 Friday night traffic, and got there. I got there about 9:45, and there were some lovely ladies already sat in the hotel enjoying the sort of a couple of drinks in the bar as I was carting the samplers through. And to be fair, they did offer to help, but I wanted to keep it all a bit of a secret until the following day. And so Marie and I set up the Stitchy room. We got it all set up that night, and then it was back to the hotel room ready for the morning. And so on the cards that first day of the retreat, I was giving a talk at about, I was supposed to start about 10 o'clock. I think I got started about 10:30. about the history of samplers in the UK. So just a very, very kind of generalised talk about the history of samplers, the different types of samplers, spot samplers, band samplers, going into sort of more personalisation, marking samplers, school samplers, the whole kind of breadth of samplers, from the first one that we have named and dated in the UK in 1598 all the way up to sort of last century samplers. And I was really nervous about giving that lecture or that talk, because although it's kind of what I do every day, people are actually going to be listening. Nobody was going to be drawing on the desk or throwing something, or, you know, people were going to be actually listening. And so I was really pleased with the way it went. I think lots of people came up to me afterwards and said how much they'd enjoyed it. So I'm hoping it went really well. But once I got talking, the nerves just disappeared, and yeah, I think it was okay. It was okay. And then what we started to do was then to look at samplers individually and to try and work out what lessons we'd learned from the lectures that we could then use to try and work out what the samplers were trying to tell us about the girls who'd actually stitched them. What were they telling us about their lives? What sort of situations were they in? What sort of circumstances? Where were they from? And so we did that, and then we had a go at using, in the afternoon, ancestry to be able to work out specifically from the samplers where the girls were, what their lives were like. And each table, there were 6 tables at the retreat, so we'd kept it purposely nice and small so that it could be really, really bespoke. And each table had their own sampler to work on. And lots of people had bought antique samplers with them, actually, and so some of them were researching their own samplers using the skills that I taught them in the afternoon. And then sort of from the tail end of the afternoon into the evening, the stitching room was open for people to just stitch and enjoy. And then in the evening, Ruthie from Crow's Feet Stitching treated us to a talk about 2 of her samplers from Yorkshire and about the differences between the 2 samplers and what had happened to those 2 girls. And it was amazing. It was really, really good, really interesting. Ruthie is super knowledgeable about all sorts of different things. If you've ever read any of the information that she sends out with her charts, you'll know how well researched she is. And then on Sunday morning, we had a bit of a raffle with some really, really lovely prizes. We had then a class how to make a tart tin finish, which I'll show you in a minute. And I taught how to do the finish and how to make the lovely pins that go in it as well. And then people had a go. Some people had to go there and then. In fact, a lot of people had to go there and then. It was really, really nice to see all these little finishes popping up and everyone putting their own spin on the finishes. And then some people just took the finishing kits away with them and the knowledge of how to do it. And then in the afternoon, I had a group of about 12 stitchers, and we sort of separated off into a little part of the room, and we went through how to use PC Stitch to actually chart samplers. And we had some samplers out on the table for people to go around and to try and chart, because you've got to be able to do it from an original piece. Once you've learned the software, it's then how do you do it from that original piece. I said right at the beginning that I wanted to have more samplers there for people to look at, for people to touch, to pick up, than any retreat has ever had. And we managed it. So on Saturday, there were 60 samplers and pieces of needlework out for people to look at, to look really, really closely at. And then on the Sunday, we had another table which enabled people to put the samplers that they'd brought with them. So, and we took our number to 76. So if you go to a museum, you don't see that number of pieces of antique needlework commonly on display at one go. So it was fabulous. It was really fabulous. And I tried to set them out in the same way as I'd done my talk, so people could sort of walk around the room and understand the context and the significance of the samplers that we had. So let me show you the samplers that we spoke about in more detail and the ones that we gave out the charts for. So the first thing when Stitchers went in on Saturday morning was they had their kit bag with their name tag and all of that sort of bits and pieces with them. And on the tables we had these lovely little stitching trays. And they had the chart for Emma Roan. Now this is Emma Roan, the original. And our idea was that once they got home, clank, they could stitch Emma Roan as a little sampler to go in the bottom of the tray. And we'd also made these lovely little paint cans with some of Emma Roan's stitching around the outside. And if I haven't put this lid on too tightly, which I probably have, yeah, I can't get it off, but there is a magnet on the underside of the lid. So you can use this as a little needle minder and a little orc catcher. And so in your tray, you've got your little paint can and you've got Emma Roan. We had a mixture of grey and white trays for people. So that was our first kind of project, if you like. And then in the afternoon, when we were talking about ancestry, we moved on to another project. So everybody had a bag with their chart and the fabric of their choice and the correct threads in order to be able to stitch Maud Mary Dodrell. Now I love Maud Mary Dodrell. She is a Bristol girl and she stitched her sampler in 1876. Now I do have the full history of Maud Mary Dodrell, which I will talk about in more detail when I actually release the sampler in the next few months. But I just loved her colours. Her choice of purple, blue and green was really, really interesting. And it says at the bottom, "Seek ye the Lord while he may be found, call upon him while he is near." Isaiah. Maud Mary Dodrell, November. So interesting that they're both November samplers. You don't always see the month recorded on a sampler, but these two both have November. And I also had with me, let me just check which way up it goes, this way, the model. So this is the model for Maud Mary Dodrell, stitched on 36 count summer khaki with the called for colours. And as you can see, she looks fabulous. Now, there's a story about this, because this sampler, of all the samplers, you could argue was perhaps one of the most important ones to be there. and on the way I dropped it in a puddle twice. Luckily it escaped any damage both times. How lucky is that? But of all the samplers, all the pieces of needlework to drop, I dropped this one twice. So there she is. Isn't she fabulous? I love her. So those were our two kind of sampler pieces, if you like. Oh, I need some sky hooks here. What we'd asked people to stitch in preparation for the Sunday morning, for the finishing class, was a little piece of needlework which is taken from a Barbara Gilmore sampler. In fact, I'm just going to go and grab Barbara. Now currently all my samplers are still sat in boxes in my dining room, and I, to my shame, have only taken out the 3 big Welsh ones today. They've been in my car all week. It's been such a busy week. And so literally I have just been taking 1 or 2 things out of the car every night rather than emptying it all. So this is Barbara Gilmore. Now you're going to be able to see the reflection of my kitchen at the moment, which, yes, there is washing up to do. Calm yourself. Right, so this is Barbara's Birds, or this is where Barbara's Birds was taken from. So you can see at the bottom, she's a Scottish sampler, typical peacock, and then we've got the pine tree. This actually has got God Rest Ye Merry Gentlemen, and so that's the verse on this. And there's lots of the Ayrshire cow, and then farming. She was a farming girl from a rural background. So I took some motifs from Barbara's sampler. Now this stool is too tall for me to put this down. Hang on. Stretch and grow. There we go. And came up with this little design here, which I asked people to stitch on 32 count. You could probably done it on 36 count as well, it would have been okay, but I said 32 count, and we made this lovely little tart tin finish. So there's the tart tin, and then I taught people how to make the little pillow to go inside, how to finish the trim, and how to make their tart tin. And the other thing that we did was we had every kit to make the tart tin had all the bits and pieces that you needed, but it also had some pins in it, 3 pins. And I showed people then how to make these fancy pins to go into their little pin cushion. And we had lots and lots of beads, so everyone could pick beads that went with the colours that they'd chosen, because I gave out suggested colours, but I said if you want to go your own route, maybe just pick something that's got a blue in it. Just use a blue. And so I knew I had plenty of blue beads and plenty of other colours in the end, but I knew I had plenty of blue. So that's what we made as our retreat piece. And lots of people made theirs there and then, which was really nice to see. So that was our retreat piece. What else have I got to show you from the retreat? Just a couple of other bits and pieces before I get on to the Stitchy kindness that people lavished on me. It was very nice to receive. I made a series of these to go on my stall. I had a little stall there selling my charts, but I made some of these lovely little pin cushions with a little frogging pin, a little diamond pin, and a little pin with, I don't know if you'll be able to see, it's got a very tiny glass flower on the top. So they were my little mini pin cushions that I had on my stall, which lots and lots of people bought. And then I also had the sampler stitcher buttons as well as my charts, but I also had the sampler stitcher buttons. Now I do have a few of these left, which I will be putting into my Etsy shop. I will also be opening an Etsy listing, if you like, for pre-orders, because my plan is to order a good load more from the maker, okay, depending on how many we need, to order a good load more and then to post them out over the Easter holidays. So our Easter holiday is the last week in March and the first week in May. Last week in March, first week in April. So what I'll be doing, as I said, is creating a listing for a pre-order for these, which will be then posted out during that Easter week, just because it's very difficult for me to get to the post office. Very difficult for me to get to the post office after school. They shut the post office in the little town where my school is, and it's sort of like a 20-30 minute drive then to another post office, which isn't always possible for me to get there before they shut. So they will be available. If you want to get your hands on one, if you like my shop, then it will tell you whenever there is an update of anything going into the shop. So you'll know as soon as they go in. Right, I have got such a lot of lovely things that Stitchers gave to me at the retreat. Lots and lots of them were chocolate or sweet based, and they were very, very welcome. A lot of them had been eaten before we left the M25 on the way home on Sunday. So it was lovely chocolates from, we had some overseas Stitchers, so from where they were in the world. I haven't asked anybody if I can name them, so I won't name anybody in particular, but I do want to just show you what I was given, because it was fabulous. So yeah, lots and lots of chocolatey treats. And then handmade cushion. Now I believe this is a Barbara Anna chart, which says, don't bug me, I'm stitching. Sorry, I've read that before and then I couldn't see the U again. So don't bug me, I'm stitching, which is fabulous. And then I had a lovely coaster, which a lady had stitched, saying Stitch in London, sampler edition. It does say 2024 underneath there as well. I noticed that she brought these for all her table mates as well. So I got one of those, which was lovely, thank you. And beautiful, beautiful thank you card, which was really lovely. I didn't expect any of this, and so to receive it was really lovely. And then people are still swapping the floss cards, so they're beautiful. I love that picture, so serene. Doesn't look like she's swearing at her needlework at all there. I can't imagine. We did actually have some floss cards as well. One of the samplers that is in my collection actually is one of the newer ones that I haven't shown you guys, I don't think. When I bought it, it was lucky enough to come with a photo on the back of the stitcher, whose name was Amy Mary Bunn, and she was from Newcastle. And so I reproduced the picture of her, and we had some floss cards for people as well. So yeah, if I remember, I'll show you those next week. And then I had this beautiful London project bag made for me by one of the stitchers. Now, I am very grateful and also very privileged to have had a couple of bags from this particular lady before. So very, very lovely. Can't wait to find something special to put in there. And she also gave me this book about the Peace Hall, which was really interesting because Ruthie, in her talk about her Yorkshire Stitchers, mentioned the Peace Hall. So I'm very much looking forward to going back through and having a read of how important this building was in Yorkshire. And she gave me a toffee selection. Now this is the only thing I haven't opened yet. The reason I haven't opened it yet is because I had to go to the dentist on Thursday, and I've got a wisdom tooth that's not really come through very well, so I had a little filling in there, and I'm really resistant to anaesthetic, so we had to put 3 lots of anaesthetic in. When I had Ness, I had 2 epidurals because they wore off. And then when I dislocated my knee the week before I went to university, nice, when when I woke up from general anaesthetic, because it had sort of slipped right the way around, they said, I remember clearly, they said, we had to give you enough to knock out a horse. So yeah, so I had an extra good bit of, I keep on saying antiseptic, anaesthetic for that. And then what I didn't realise is that, obviously I couldn't feel anything that he was doing, but I didn't realise that he must have had my sort of mouth open like a wheelie bin, because all next day and the day after, my jaw has been so sore. So I'm not quite up to toffee. I'm not back to toffee level yet, but I'll get there. I will get there. And she also gave me this whole box of Lottie Shaw's Yorkshire tin of treats, and it's a beautiful box. Now you might rightly think, well, that sounds empty, Michelle. Yes, it is totally empty. We have eaten the lot out of that. There was parkin in there was some chocolate cookies in there was millionaire shortbread, there was flapjack, all sorts of things. Now these chocolate cookies were so amazing. Let me just reach for this. I actually had to go onto Amazon and order some more. I've already like waffed all the chocolate cookies in there, and then I had to go and eat some more. Now apparently this box, those two sets of chocolate chip cookies are individually wrapped, so you don't have to eat them all at once. We'll see about that. They're delicious. And then I was also given these two fabulous sets of floss drops. So this is a London themed one, which is amazing, on this lovely like laminated card, all lovely scenes of London, which I shall keep with my London bag, and a bit of ring bling, don't Google that. There we go. And then also when I saw these, I literally squealed, because I hadn't had a chance to look in this bag before I left. Look at those. Look at those herons. Look at my curtains. You will see I'm constantly going on about herons. So this beautiful pack of heron floss drops with little, let me show you, you've got little stickers on the back as well, so you can write the name of the floss on. And then again, another little heron ring bling. So I was just bowled over by that. I didn't expect anything of the sort, but thank you so much to those of you that gave me and Marie gifts. It was really lovely. Thank you. Right, I have got some haul to show you, and then I've also got a freebie, but I've buried it. Hang on, where have I buried it? Let's do the freebie first before I bury it. This is a little stitch from Lindy Stitches. I thought you might like a little Easter small. So this is called Peter's Day Out. So it's a little rabbit. You can do them on a nice fancy colour fabric, or a nice plain fabric, whatever you choose. Whoops. And it is only, well, that's a funny way of doing it, 40 by 40, 42 by 39. There we go. So it wouldn't take very long to do at all, and would be great for a smalls exchange. Which reminds me, we had a smalls exchange at the retreat. You guys are way more generous than I would ever be. I could never give away the beautiful things that were coming out of that. Marie and I were so lucky with the group of stitchers that we had. They were the loveliest people. Even if Sherry from Sew Me Sherry did write on her badge that she was terrified of Michelle. I managed to get her though. I managed to get her. She was sat eating her breakfast and she couldn't get away from me, so I just hugged her while she was eating scrambled egg. She didn't have a choice. And that kind of broke the ice then, I think. When somebody's hugged you while you're eating scrambled egg, there's no getting away from me, is there? So yeah, everybody at that retreat was golden. It was the best combination of people ever. It's the people that go that really make the retreat. They really make the retreat, because Marie and I could organise all these nice things, but the way in which they were received and the way that people just shared so much information with one another was just incredible. And the stitching that people were doing, as always, you know, I came away with this massive list of things that I need to buy because I don't have those things that were beautiful. So yeah, we had a smalls exchange and oh my goodness me, it was amazing. Right, I've digressed back. A little bit of random haul. Somebody was destashing some 28 count ale. Picture this plus, half yard. So I grabbed that. And they were also destashing a half yard of 32 count murky. So I grabbed that. Now I do actually have a yard of murky, but it's the most unmurky murky ever. And I keep looking at it thinking I must do something with that. That's kind of what I'm more imagine. My murky is like this colour with just green splotches on it. It doesn't even look really like murky. So when somebody was destashing that, I thought, well, I'm going to grab that. And I've been thinking about stitching these for a little while. So somebody was selling the whole set on eBay, but some of them went really, really high. So I just grabbed the ones that were more reasonably priced because I didn't have any of them. So I got the Prairie School at ABC, and then GH and I, JK and L, and then MN and O. I think I'm going to do them individually. Although I don't know. But it's got all the initials that I would want. So I would want the M and the N to begin with, and also the C. The C is for cow, not Chris. But there we go. So there we go. I grabbed those. I also got Deck the Coop Pin Keep from the retreat. Marie Stitches and Diamonds had a little stall. I had a little stall. Ruthie from Crow Street Stitching had a little stall. Megan, who is Coffee Crafts or Coffee Craft Fabrics, had a huge stall. She had so much there. And then there was also Atelier Frames as well there. So a lot of people were either picking up framing or sending things away for framing. But Marie had a few charts as well, so I grabbed this one. I also got this one from Hannah, who is Hannah Stitching on Instagram. She has designed some charts and she gave me this one at the retreat, which is March 1878. Let's get all the numbers in the right order. 1878, which is a beautiful red sampler. Talking to red samplers, I also bought Maria Bowthorpe, which I'll put a picture up here. She came out on the 23rd, so Nessa's birthday. So as soon as she came out, I grabbed her because I wanted to start stitching her straight away. Now, Linda from the Sampler Guild actually popped in on Saturday afternoon to say hello to everyone. And we got talking and she had mentioned some linen that I might like to try, which the Sampler Guild sell. And this is called Sotema Italian linen. And this is 48 count. So she sent me kindly some 48 count linen to try. Thanks, Linda. Now, one of these fine floss tubes, I will tell you all about the Sampler Guild, because I'm in the Sampler Guild, lots and lots of other people are in the Sampler Guild. And if you're interested in samplers, it is really, really a good thing to be part of. So perhaps next week, I'll tell you all about the Sampler Guild and how you can become a member. And then on Facebook, a lady was destashing a lot of Whitney Antiques previous exhibition catalogues. Now, these are fabulous. Now, you might think, why would I want an exhibition catalogue? They are beautifully, beautifully produced. Let me try and see if I can flip through so you can see what is included. So these are all previous exhibitions that Becky has had at Whitney Antiques. Now, if I see this come up on eBay again, somebody trying to tell me that it's the proper original sampler, this has got more prints in circulation than any other sampler, I think. But that is obviously the original. So there's so many pictures and illustrations in each of these charts, each of these booklets, and they're on a theme. So this one is called Schools, Scholars and Seminaries. So that's what links all of them. And if you read the information through about each of the samplers, it really tells you the history of this type of sampler. So I got this one. I got this one called an Exceptional Endeavour, which again has got beautiful pictures all the way through. This is sampler porn, basically. There we go. This one is called Stitched in Adversity, the Samplers of the Poor, which is really, really interesting. Can't wait to sit down and just pore over these. Then I've got British Samplers and Historic Embroideries, Upstairs, Downstairs, Plain and Fancy. So again, a little sort of a way of comparing is a word, comparing the samplers that would have been stitched by more affluent girls compared to those perhaps who would have found themselves in service. So again, can't wait to read that one. And then two others, Diligence, Industry and Virtue. Again, taking a sneaky look at them now because I just can't wait. And this one, Paradise Revisited. There are more. This is not all of them, their catalogues. There are more. I've got 2 or 3 others upstairs that I've bought. A couple that I bought straight from Becky, and a couple that I have picked up elsewhere. Excuse me, itchy nose. They are well worth it. You can buy them straight from Whitney Antiques still and have them posted to you, or you can buy them online. Places like eBay, they show up as well, but they are well worth a good look. Plans for next week. I need to finish this. What is this, you might ask? So this is one of my Pinker and Punking blogspot houses. This was my January house. Now, as you can see, I have been somewhat remiss in getting it stitched up. There was a lot of work to do with the retreat. That's now over. I can get back to finishing this because I'm due to start another one this month as well. I was going to start them every other month, so I need to finish this one and get my March one underway. I'm doing a sulky conversion, which is why there's some sulky threads hanging around in there. So that's it from me. Next week, normal service will resume. I will show you my Norfolk sampler and I'll tell you all about how you could join the Sampler Guild. Until then, I'll see you next week. Stay classy, Stitchers.